are now at the end of Ukraine Reconstruction Summit. That was really amazing. I wanted to ask, was it for you?
To me, it was very eye-opening. I think this summit is extremely important. This is the first of its kind. The war in Ukraine is hopefully now coming to an end. We may not be at the end, but we're certainly at the beginning of the end. So we now need to start thinking about what a post-war recovery looks like, and that recovery can only come when individuals like we have here at this summit now start thinking about reconstructing Ukraine, what that has to look like, who has to be involved, how that will be paid for by private enterprise, possibly frozen Russian assets, etc. So all of these discussions have to start happening now. So this summit has now laid the foundation for this, which is now hopefully the first step of having more discussions on this.
Thank you very much, and it was really incredible. I totally agree, and everybody here, as you said, was discussing the future of Ukraine. So actually, how do you envision it? What you would like to see Ukraine? Do you have any envisions?
I would like to see Ukraine fully secure, obviously in a state of peace and fully secure. One thing, as I mentioned in my presentation, is that we need to ensure that this war is never repeated again. So that means Ukraine has to have sufficient security guarantees. Otherwise, we will find ourselves in the same situation. Maybe it's 1 year or maybe it's 10 years from now, and that cannot be allowed to happen. And Ukraine will not attract private investment if there's any possibility of the war restarting. So the absolute foundation of any peaceful settlement in Ukraine is security guarantees to ensure that this war is never repeated.
And your institute was the first one who actually reported the genocide in Ukraine. Could you talk a little bit more about that? How was it? So basically you went to Ukraine and you've been on the ground to make sure that you make this report, right?
Yeah, so I was invited to Ukraine at the very early stages of the war by the Deputy Prime Minister to come and investigate if a genocide is taking place. So I went there, I spent a considerable amount of time there speaking to witnesses. On my return, I put together teams of experts, open source intelligence experts, language experts, and most importantly, legal scholars. So we had over 35 top legal scholars looking at the evidence, and the conclusion we came to was very clear that Russia's invasion of Ukraine is genocidal in nature. They wanted to wipe out Ukrainian identity, they wanted to wipe out Ukrainianness, and so this was the first report of its kind. It got considerable media coverage, and multiple parliaments around the globe used this report to vote for genocide determinations against Russia. And so this was one of the first things that we, as our institute, the Newlines Institute, one of the first things that we did.
Thank you very much for your incredible work, and for sure it was not easy, but very, very important, so that you done that. Thank you very much for that. And so one more question, probably about the cooperation, because at this summit we've seen here United States, Poland and Ukraine representatives, both sectors, the civil society, the business and the government. So how do you see it? How much is that important for these partnerships, for this cooperation, what it can bring?
Any future peace agreement in Ukraine settlement has to involve Europe, the United States and Ukraine, and there is a way to ensure that this is not aid travelling one way in terms of reconstructing Ukraine, but this is a mutually beneficial partnership. Ukraine is a country with immense resources and immense talent, and one of the ways that we can ensure that there is no further invasion of Ukraine in the future is to have this kind of commercial relationship with all parties involved. Countries will protect their own national interests if they see there's a considerable amount of investment that has gone into the various sectors in Ukraine.